Good seeing all your bright, smiling faces this morning. It's been a while since we've got to get together, I guess since recruiting class and recruiting announcements. So finally glad to be back on the football field. We've had our first 4 days have been really, really good. I mean, it's been extremely hot. We've had to deal with weather and other things already, but our guys have stayed focused, really come to camp in the best shape that I've seen them. Obviously, there's a difference between running and getting in condition and then being football ready. So we're going through those bumps and bruises and things that we've got to go through right now. But it's good to have our guys back on the field. It's great to be back on the field with them. We've had 2 days of pads, 2 days of helmets only. Getting the pads on obviously, lives it up a little bit. But, the biggest thing for us right now is I think we made a lot of progress defensively in the spring. And I think we've continued that trend right now in fall camp. I think we're really flying around defensively. Offensively, still kind of gelling, getting everybody back. I think Dane's been really sharp the first 4 days. I think our running backs have been really sharp the first 4 days. We got to continue to keep growing, especially up front, just finding the right combination of 5 guys. And then as receivers go, getting those guys back off of injury is great. Just still kind of knocking the rust off. They're trying to do a little bit too much right now. Just need to settle down and let things happen for them. But I love the way that they're working, and I love the attitude that our football team has brought to the table as we started fall camp. With that being said, y'all can shoot away. All right, John, here we go.
Do we need to state name and affiliation, or are we okay? We're good?
I think we're all friends in here for right now, right?
So. There's been a lot of talk about year 2 in a system. In your system, the players will be more comfortable and kind of more at ease knowing the lingo. Have you noticed that throughout the first week of practice?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I think on both sides of the football and in the special team side of it. I think anytime, this time last year, we're still trying to get to know each other at that point, and finding out what we're going to be like coming into the season. Some of those things are reoccurring. Obviously, the nature of your football team and who it's going to be that's a new process each and every year. But as far as understanding what we're doing from an X and O and a scheme standpoint, much further along right now than we were last year. And guys are eager to continue to keep learning and being able to put more on their plate and really kind of move a little bit quicker from the standpoint of how you're installing things as you go through fall camp.
Specifically, what kind of defensive improvement do you think you guys are capable of, or would you like to see?
I really think our back seven right now, from a quickness standpoint, from a length and speed standpoint, I mean, we're really attacking the point, especially with the ball in the air. We've made some great plays defensively up to this point. I think those guys are going to make mistakes. But with that being said, I think we've got some speed to chase some things down as those things happen. I think we're learning from those each and every day, and we're putting them in some tough situations as we're going through camp. So I think we're much better in the back end, and I think we understand from a coverage standpoint how we want to kind of, as you're working things across coverage, how it's going to fit. And then up front, I think Jerry Yu has really had a good camp. Hayden Carmen's had a good camp. Jeremy Smith's had a good camp so far. I think as we've moved some pieces around a little bit, I think we've got a chance to be really good up front. Brubaker's made some plays. Frankie's made plays. So as those guys continue to kind of grow within the scheme and learning where they're at now, I think it's just getting better and better.
Sir, about the comfort level in installing more plays as you do that, and that got me curious. How much of your playbook, I know it's not an actual playbook, but how much did you install throughout season 1, and is there still layers to go?
Yeah, we still got layers to go, and then I think, just like everybody else, as you're growing as a football team and learning your team, you're developing things just for them specifically. So, obviously you have Kevin at the first year, you've got certain things in that you're going to be running for him. As we don't have him later in the year, some of those things kind of get pushed to the side. So your scheme is going to grow as you're going through the season. But we probably got 75% of it in last year. With what we do offensively, tempo is such a big part of it. And, if you're going to play fast, you got to be real careful about having too much on your plate as you go into a game. And so be able to eliminate and add according to what you got to do that week is always a big factor.
Coach, when it comes to freshmen, I know a lot of times you like to redshirt a lot of them, but with some of these that you talked about so highly, do you think you could see some freshmen getting some playing time here as the season progresses?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, 4 days into it, it's hard to really tell. I mean, those guys are just trying to tread water right now. But I think we signed a really good class. I think there's some freshmen in that class that have a chance to play early. Whether that's the first game of the year or the third game of the year is going to kind of see how they progress through it. But I definitely think there's some guys in there that are going to have to step in and make a difference. And that could be anywhere on the field, up front offensively and defensively, could be in the secondary, could also be at receivers. So there's some guys in there that's got a chance. We played some young guys last year. Prez played last year, Minter played last year, and several others. So my job and our job as a coaching staff is to make sure that we're putting the best 11 guys out there no matter what grade you're in, what everybody else thinks of you. It's whatever gives us the best chance to win.
Of line, trying to get those guys to gel. Do you think that you'll have Belcher moved, and do you have any idea how that's going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, we've had 2 different scenarios of it so far this camp. We're going to flip back to another one at tomorrow's practice, work it for a couple of days, and then I think we'll have a pretty good determination of what we want to do by the end of that first scrimmage this Saturday, and then we're going to put them in there and let them go. Because, as you know, with the offensive line, those guys need time to gel and have a chance to really work as a unit in the places that they're going to play. So the quicker we make that determination, make that decision, I think the better off we'll be.
Just follow up on that. Obviously, it's not ideal to have a guy like that miss all but one half of the season, but then you have a guy like Willie Wright who had a lot of experience. So almost in a way, you have 2 returning starters. How much of an asset is that?
Well, I really do. I feel like we got 4 returners coming back. Now we got to figure out how those 4 guys are going to mesh in and then find the extra one. And then, I don't know if it's been released yet or not, but Belcher got a 6th year back for missing there. So, we could potentially have all 5 guys coming back in a year from now, which, as you work your way through it, anytime you can get all your linemen back is always a good sign. I don't know, DT, was I not supposed to say that?
Back to the freshmen for just a minute. In your history as a coach, when do you feel like you know about freshmen? How far into camp, or is it even into the season at some point? And is there anybody that after 4 practices you're willing to say, we'll be counting on this guy? Do you have any freshmen like that?
No, I don't think there's anybody after 4 days that I'm going to hang my hat on just yet. They're just too young right now. Generally speaking, after the second scrimmage, you're getting a pretty good idea. You're getting 2 scrimmages with them. After that second one, you've got a better idea kind of how they're going to react when they get in those game-type situations. You've got practice players and you got game players, and that's as close as we can do. We don't get scrimmages, true scrimmages against somebody else, so that's as close as we can get to a game-like situation. So right now we still got all of us as far as coaches on the field and helping them, getting guys lined up and doing all that as much as we can. When you're standing on the sideline, those guys got to think for themselves. It becomes a different ball game. So you got to kind of get into the scrimmage part of it to kind of get a good idea of where they're at, to get a true evaluation of them.
Yeah, hey, Coach, you got a pretty tough schedule. How do you see the schedule laying out, and how would you rate your division this year?
I think our schedule is very tough. We got a bunch of bowl teams on there. Obviously, we've got San Jose first ball game who won their bowl game last year. And then the trip everybody's talking about, we go up north and play Ohio State. Still got Fresno in there. Still got North Carolina A&T, who was an extremely good team last year. So preseason-wise, we got our hands full. I think the West Division of our conference is extremely strong from top to bottom. Being that we played in it now a year, I can tell you there is so much parity in our league. Who knows what's going to happen week in, week out. I don't think there's a bad team on our schedule. I think every football team's got a chance. We've got 4 new coaches in this league. Obviously, those guys are bringing something different to the table. So I think from a conference standpoint, our conference is as strong as it's ever been from a competitive side. So we've got to continue to keep building on that part of it, playing good teams in the preseason. But our goal is to win the West and get a chance for that conference championship to be played here at our place.
You mentioned that Ohio State game. In your mind, would you rather have a marquee game, quote unquote, like that, be right out of the gate, so that where there's no chance that maybe the guys are looking past an opponent, or would you rather get a game, get on the field, and then have to go travel and play that?
Yeah, I don't know that I care either way on that. I don't mind it. I like it being earlier, game 1 or game 2. But as far as the first rattle out of the box or the second, that part really doesn't matter to me. Either way, it's going to be a tough football game. Our guys are going to be excited to go play. Right now, all we're focused on is San Jose, and they're an extremely tough opponent. I mean, they've done a great job there. They've hired a new defensive coordinator in Ron English, and so, he's been out of coaching for a couple of years. So from us, from an offensive standpoint, not really sure what you're going to get. So we're going to have to kind of prepare and look and then make a lot of adjustments at the opening kickoff and seeing what we get and being able to move and change as the game flows.
Coach, based on improvements over the summer, is maybe there a position battle or if you want to get into a specific player who'll be battling for playing time that maybe you weren't quite expecting?
I think we got a good battle up front on the defensive line side of it. I think Hayden and Jerry, you have done a great job. But there's a battle for who's going to be the backup guys to them. I think that same thing can go, as you're talking about Jeremy Smith, Jesse Brubaker, Hanks, all of those guys are kind of lined up in that spot. And so finding that combination, I think there's a great, tremendous battle right there. And then we've got all 3 linebackers back, and all of those guys have done a great job. But there's some guys behind them that are biting at their heels that are pushing for playing time. And I think the great thing I think about our football team right now is nobody feels secure in their job. Probably the only one that does right now is Dane and Kevin Lucas. Besides that, everybody else knows that there's somebody sitting behind them that's waiting to get in and really pushing. And as a football coach, that's what you want, because competition creates the best of us. And as long as we're competing and working every day, I think we're getting better.
You had no problem playing the nobody respects us card last year when you were picked
It's still there.
last. So that you picked 4th or just
Whether we picked last or picked 4th, that part doesn't matter. I know none of y'all, and not because you didn't want to, let me say it that way, but our media days, if you got to travel up there with us, we don't have a lot of respect in this conference from what we're saying. You can look across it. Our university has won a lot of conference championships in this league, but I still don't think we get the respect that we deserve in this league. And so as we're going around the room, I can promise you our guys are fighting still for respect within our conference, within our state. And you come out to practice, which I know you have, and you'll see the way that they're working. I mean, we're punching the clock and going to work every day.
When you mentioned not knowing what you're going to get looking at the defensive side of the ball in that first game, is that where having a guy with the experience like Dane, where you can just kind of unload on him and trust that he's seeing what you're seeing out there is even more valuable?
Yeah, I think that's extremely valuable. I mean, going into last season would have been even tougher on Dane, just not understanding totally what we're doing offensively at that time, never being under the gun in a game-type situation, pressure-type situation like that. Being year 2 and as diligently as he's worked at it, there is some confidence knowing that you've got a guy coming back that understands and can help as you're making adjustments on the sideline, him understanding and really understanding the verbiage that you're telling him and how we got to change reads and change looks and change a route here, and being able to make that adjustment, and then having those guys coming back up front, because that's where so much of the game is played, and that's where you got to win is in the trench. So those guys have got to make big adjustments in there.
Obviously, wide receiver is very crucial in your offense, and Kevin and Josh we kind of know about. But how big a jump has Justin made, and who are some of the guys behind those 3 that we might be surprised at this year?
Yeah, with the injury to Kevin last year, Hobbs got thrown in there. Probably really wasn't ready for all of that. The dividends that's going to pay for us this year, I think, are tremendous because he got a lot of experience, played in big ball games, made big catches in big ball games. So, he's moving over to the right side. He's going to get some action there. I think his progress has been really, really good. He made a couple of big plays the other day towards the end of practice on a couple of our better corners. So I'm pleased with his progress. He's still got a lot of work to do. We got to be more consistent in our route running and our catching. But those three guys have got to help lead us. I think Nigel Carter had a really good spring and has had a good fall camp up to this point. And then I think Bishop has had the best 4 days I've seen him have since I've been here. So those guys have got a chance. And then a couple of those freshmen have got a chance to kind of step in, and we'll see how they progress as fall camp goes.
Asked you about D'Angelo last week, and you said he had put on some serious weight. How do you see that helping him, I guess, get through the season and also be effective?
Yeah, I think it was a big factor for him. You know, obviously he had a tremendous year last year, but ended up missing a couple of games due to injury. And, you know, he's basically weighing about 176 pounds, 78 pounds last year. The type of abuse that you take at running back in this league and in the schedule that we play, it's very difficult to stay healthy. So, you know, talked to him honestly on the bus trip home from Oklahoma and just told him, hey, your weight's got to come up. And he's been very diligent about it this spring and this fall. I mean, he was at 198 when we weighed in. I think he's still carrying 194, and he really is as quick as he's ever been. So he's had a great first 4 days. He's got to continue on that trend, and he's got to stay hungry with it. But he's got a chance to be a special player before he leaves here.
We talked to you about Kevin. What happened there? Last week, and
Right.
how excited he was to be back and everything. Like you had said, he loves football more than your average guy, loves to compete more than your average player. How much does that help on the practice field, having him back? I'm sure.
Oh, it's night and day because, I mean, I told you when he got injured, we're gonna miss him on the field and the productivity that he brings to the table. More than that, we're going to miss him on the practice field and in the locker room because of what a tremendous leader vocally and physically that he is. I mean, he can lead by example because nobody's going to outwork him. I mean, he's very diligent about what he does on the practice field. And so it's exciting to have him back. We got to really kind of pull the reins on him back a little bit because he's just so eager. When you love something as much as he loves it, the game of football, and it's taken away from you for 10 and a half months, you know, you're really, really hungry to get back out there. And so trying to just calm him down a little bit and making sure that he's taking care of himself because we got to have him. We're not going to win a championship on practice number 4. It's going to be part of the process of it, but it's not all going to be won on practice 4. So we got to get him through camp, get him into games, and he'll be ready.
Can you talk about the progress of McKinley Whitfield? He's made some key plays for you in the past year.
McKinley's a stud. I mean, I love his length, his athleticism. A real student of the game, has really come a long way since he's been here. A guy that we ended up playing some last year. But he's in the mix at the safety spot, and he's got a chance to really kind of take over that spot for us. So he's a guy that's athletic enough that we can move around in a lot of different spots. I think there's 3 different spots on the field that he could actually play for us. He could play the field, the boundary, and play the star, depending upon the situation. So McKinley's a guy that I think has a chance to really be a breakout player for us this year.